Hello everyone, and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Today, thanks to the team at Joe Macari, I'm bringing you an in-depth exterior and interior tour of a 2018 Ferrari GTC4 Lusso. This car, finished in Nero Daytona, is currently for sale at the time of publishing, so feel free to use the direct link in the video description for more information. The GTC4 Lusso follows on from the FF. It has received significant styling and mechanical adjustments, but of course retains the iconic bread van-esque aesthetic. The name apparently means Grand Tourer Coupe, with the 4 standing for 4 seats or 4-wheel drive, depending on which model you choose, because the V8 is rear-wheel drive. Lusso is quite simple, it's just the Italian for luxury. In comparison to the FF, it's 15 cm longer at 4,922mm long, 27mm wider at 1,980mm wide, 4mm higher at 1,383mm high, and 40 kg heavier, with a curb weight of 1,920 kg. However, it still retains the near 50-50 weight distribution, 47 at the front and 53 at the rear. Before we can take a look at the impressive engine bay, we must first pull the red catch inside the driver's footwell to unlatch the bonnet. Moving around to the front, a small catch can then be pushed to the left, and the bonnet can be lifted up before being self-supported on 2 struts. Looking up, we see quite a lot of heat shielding, and below, the magnificent engine. The GTC4 comes with 2 powertrain options, a 6.3 litre naturally aspirated V12 as seen here, or a twin-turbo 3.9 litre V8 that's shared with the 488 GTB. The front-mounted V12 in this car produces 680 brake horsepower and 697 Nm of torque. That output results in a 0 to 62 mph or 100 km/h time of 3.4 seconds, up on the FF by 0.3 seconds, and a top speed of 208 mph. This car sits on the optional 20-inch front and rear forged Nürburgring silver wheels. Braking is provided by carbon ceramic discs at each corner, 390mm at the front and 360mm at the rear. Stability comes from what Ferrari call Magneride adjustable suspension, and an improved variant of the 4RM Evo 4-wheel drive system found in the FF. It also comes with a new 4-wheel steer system that was actually developed in the F12 TDF. The result is increased agility and stability. We can now start the in-depth exterior tour from front to back. The GTC4 comes with this new splitter that helps to create a more integrated front in comparison to the FF. The air intakes have been moved up and integrated with the new front grille, which now features 3 instead of 2 horizontal strips. The bottom line now curves up less aggressively at the sides, which is also where we can find the lateral air intakes for the radiators, now integrated inside the grille. Looking inside, we find a more open intake section, which is used for front brake cooling. Centrally, we find the iconic prancing horse and the front park assist camera above. The lights on either side have also been heavily updated. They now feature an aluminium component that sweeps down and meets a new LED complex at the bottom. Above this, we find the main bi-xenon adaptive lights, and above, a significantly reduced LED complex, from 14 found in 2 rows in the FF, to just 4 in 1 row here. The bonnet behind has a tighter and more prominent power dome to the FF, more similar to that found on the F12. Moving back, we find a rather large windscreen with 2 wipers. We can now move to the lateral aspect of the GTC4. The side skirts now extend back right from the rear of the front wheel arches. Above, we find a side LED indicator, and above this a new tri-vent area that replaces the old grille section in the FF. This section helps to release hot air from the engine bay and guide it along the side of the car. The air blades themselves are finished in the optional carbon fibre. The optional Scuda rear shields are no longer integrated behind these vents, but are now above and slightly behind. The front of the electrically adjustable wing mirrors now come with a less smooth and more aerodynamically designed exterior. They do not have integrated indicators, and these are found below. Moving up, we find the optional panoramic tinted roof. Moving back down, the door handles have been elongated to make them more easily accessible. At the rear of the roof, we find this new rooftop spoiler. As with the Panamera Sport Turismo, the wing helps to continue the rear lines in a more muscular way, and also provide a small aero benefit. The rear of the GT4 has also changed quite significantly. The rear window appears wider and more angular than before. Below this, we find a new LED brake light strip. On either side, there are now two heavily updated circular brake light complexes, and below, a different diffuser section from that found on the FF. The dual tailpipes from the optional valve-controlled sports exhaust can be found on either side, as before, but come with a small lip underneath. Moving inwards, there are now larger fins on either side that extend from Venturi tunnels. Centrally, there's the cover around what could be a rear differential with the reversing camera just above it. Now we've finished the exterior tour, we can move inside. The GTC4 comes with a standard Ferrari key, the same as that used by the 488. The door pulls out easily thanks to the enlarged handle. The interior here is finished in full Curio and Nero leather with Alcantara and black inserts. We also find optional carbon fibre inserts and other aluminium components. We can now start the in-depth interior tour with the doors. The top panel is squared off and upholstered in Nero leather. It finishes with venting for demist. Below this is a totally redesigned panel. It has been enlarged, with stitching below to emphasise the armrest. As we continue to follow this section, we find the electric mirror controls, door handle and first speaker from the HD JBL sound system. On the edge of the slimline armrest, we find these new digital controls, in addition to seat memory controls and the door latch. Below this we find quite a long storage area. Pushing the first button here unlocks and unlatches the fuel cap. The fuel tank can hold the same as the FF, 91 litres, with the car returning a combined MPG of 24. The cap can then be manually closed and locked. Now moving inside, the sill and side skirt section under the door has been altered, with the removal of a small ridge. However, the kick plate has retained. There's also a carbon fibre option that can be spec'd here. The car does feel quite low, but egress and ingress was very straightforward. As we sweep along the kick plate and move upwards, we find a small storage area with the electric parking brake. The exterior lighting controls for the left screen in the instrument cluster to the right of the cruise controls, and above, the first manually adjustable air vent. The new flat-bottom steering wheel is to the left. The wheel is included in the optional carbon interior pack which has been selected here, and gets the LED gear shift indicator at the top that's surrounded by carbon. Now looking at the wheel in more detail, there's Nero leather on either side of this at the 9 and 3 positions, with the left indicator, beams, bumpy road suspension setting in blue and red engine start-stop to the left, horn and horse centrally, voice controls for command and calls below. There's more carbon at the bottom of the wheel, with the Manatino selector, wiper controls and right indicator to the right. Depressing the red engine start button causes the shift indicator LEDs to illuminate, and the instrument cluster screens to begin their start sequences. The instrument cluster ahead is split into 3 screens as before. From left to right, speedo with fuel gauge, circular customizable rev gauge with digital screen displaying gear selected, and finally a digital trip and information screen. From left to right, the status screen first offers information for engine and oil temperature, then oil pressure and battery voltage and tyre pressures. Moving right, we find Trip A and Trip B for speeds, distances and times. The VDA or Vehicle Dynamic Assistance is next. It shows traction and stability controls for the side slip control system and gearbox settings, and how these change depending on which drive mode is selected. In the top left, we can currently see wet is selected. Settings is last, where the user can change over to the left screen, dim screen brightness, and change generic settings such as date and time. The famous Manatino switch has 3 main modes here: wet, comfort and sport, with a direct access to settings below and ESC above. The dash ahead is a relatively flat, leather upholstered area, with speakers in each corner and 4 air vents protruding out. Moving down, we find 3 buttons to the left of the steering wheel, from right to left: dual view park assist cameras, parking sensors, and to raise the car via the optional vehicle lift. Moving left, at the top of the central column we find 3 air vents, 2 rotating and 1 slit that opens and closes. The rotating vents can be opened and closed using the slider on top and then manually positioned. Below these, we find the brand new 10.25-inch infotainment screen that can be controlled using its touchscreen interface, or a small cluster of direct access controls below. Pressing Menu at the top, we can navigate away from this screensaver and into the main option screen. Here we can look at, from left to right, the FM, AM and full DAB digital radio, then media for exterior devices which can be attached via Bluetooth or USB. Apple CarPlay can also be spec'd here. Next we find the navigation screen with local areas of interest. As you can see, the system is responsive to pinch, twist and zoom movements. Phone connectivity options are next, via Bluetooth, with similarly easy connectivity options. Finally, we come to the settings menu. Here the user can adjust screen settings, access the equalizer for further sound options, view device history and connectivity options in the Bluetooth menu. The final two menu screens here are for system info, where a factory reset can be initiated, and then language settings. The icon to the right of menu at the top can be used to turn the screen off. The final things to view on this screen are the single and dual views from the exterior park assist cameras that can show front or rear views depending on the gear selected. Below and to the right we find the small cluster of direct access buttons and a volume scroller. Underneath we find controls for, from right to left, driver's zone temperature, auto, recirculation and driver's zone air direction, fan speed intensity, front and rear demist, passenger zone air direction and temperature. Moving down, we find the selectors for the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, integrated here into a strut finished in the optional carbon. Shifting can be done behind the wheel using the long carbon paddles, or the car can be put into full auto mode. Here there are buttons for reverse, auto mode, launch control, and the red hazard light button. Centrally, there are two flaps that can be opened by depressing the small aluminium button behind. Inside we find two integrated cup holders. There are two further aluminium buttons behind this that are for the front windows. The leather upholstered dual armrest behind can be pulled up without depressing any buttons to reveal an illuminated storage area that comes with aux, 12V and USB connectivity. On either side of the central column, we find these optional Daytona-style seats, which are one of three options. They are upholstered in leather and Alcantara, and are electrically adjustable with controls found to the sides. Now we can take a tour of one of the main features of the GTC4, the rear. The front seats can be moved forward easily by pulling this lever, tilted forward, and then left to auto slide out of the way. The rear consists of two individual seats that mirror the chosen style of the front, so Daytona here. These are upholstered in the same outer leather and inner Alcantara, with embroidered headrests in contrast stitching. Now taking a point of view look around the interior, we first find the standard seat backs. Leather upholstered is the option. There are small leather pockets below, with the interior space in general being quite light and airy, thanks to the very large panoramic roof above. Now we can focus on individual details from right to left. Above, there's a leather grab handle with rear light controls further back. Moving down, we find a slight armrest with another speaker from the JBL system. The central column in the front continues in the rear and helps to divide the different passenger zones. We first find two more manually adjustable air vents. Below this is a small door that can be pushed forward to reveal two cup holders. Moving back, there's another slim storage area with two USB inputs and a 12V socket. Moving up, there's a smooth leather panel that can be pulled down to facilitate ski storage. Now we've finished in the rear, we can move the front seat back into position and focus on the final few features. The optional passenger display has been spec'd here. It can be turned on by depressing the button to the left. The pixel density and colours are a huge step up from that found in the FF. Here, media and radio controls can be found and adjusted, in addition to navigation, performance and VDA information, with various screens on each menu. Below this, we find the illuminated glove compartment that is released by depressing the button to the right. Moving outside again, the boot can be opened using the button on the driver's side or that on the key. The rear boot has a standard capacity of 450 litres, which can be increased to 800 litres by partially lowering the rear seats, only partially lowered because the fuel tank gets in the way. It comes with an elevated luggage shelf at the back for a classic aesthetic. The black carpets can be spec'd in a wide variety of colours. The soft red bag holds the car's indoor cover. The boot can then be auto-closed using the key or the button here. Moving inside briefly, we find the leather upholstered sun visors with illuminated vanity mirrors. Centrally, we find the front light controls and buttons for engine start-stop, and the interior lock controls with the auto-dimming rearview mirror below. So that concludes this in-depth exterior and interior tour of this 2018 Ferrari GTC4 Lusso, currently for sale at Joe Macari. Please find direct links to the dealer in the video description. Please subscribe for all the latest content, and until next time, thanks for watching.